We are now at exercise 11. In this exercise, we're going to focus on the XREFs in our sheet set. There's a folder named XREFs. There's two maps, one map named X base map, and then there's X building elevations. There's also in the details folder, detail sections. We are going to create model space name views at a current scale that we can place on our drawing, dragging and dropping them. So we're going to go down to exercise 12. And underneath XREFs, you're going to see there's building elevations and a base map. So we're going to open up the base map first. I'll open both of them so we can see both of them. Then I'll open up the building. And you'll see there's actual points on there to help us out. So a model space view is a view, a snapshot of that view in time. So what we're going to do is under the View tab of the ribbon, you can do name views here under View Manager. And you can see there's 3 of them already in there. That's what we're going to create, but we're actually going to delete them out of here and then label them. The key components are layer snapshots and the annotative scale when you create those. You notice that's 30. That's how you bring that view in. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to delete these views. What we're going to do is we're going to create 3 views. We're going to go from point 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and 5 to 6. So if we set our object snap to intersection, and we can just type view at the command prompt. New, we're going to call this one north topography, and we can give it a view category civil and call it still, and we're going to define the window. And you can see our intersection is point 1 to point 2. Select enter, OK, and you can see our model space view. Let's do another one for the southern portion. New, call it south topography. Again, the category would be civil. We're going to define the window. And we're going to go point 3 to point 4. Enter and enter again. And now the next one, I'm going to select OK, is the pond area. And the pond area actually has a scale of 1 to 30. So I'm going to change my annotative scale to 30. Type view at the command prompt or up on the ribbon. Right click, new view, we'll call this pond area. Keep it under civil again. Select here, and we'll go 0.5 and 0.6. Now we have created our 3 model space views in our sheet set. If I go over to the building elevations, you'll see I have views in there as well. Front elevation, left elevation, rear, and right. Same concept. Create the views at the scale you need to be placed within your drawing. We are now up to exercise 12. We're actually going to view the call out label blocks, the view label block that is used to bring in those views that we created in model space via an XREF into our drawings. So we're going to actually bring we're going to look at the view label block, we're going to look at the attributes, the properties, and how it has a sheet set placeholder, and then we're going to place that north topography, south topography, the pond into our civil drawings. We're going to place details into our detail drawings and the architectural into our architectural drawings. The first thing we want to do is we want to start adding those views we did in exercise 11 to our sheets. You can see we have a civil site plan that has nothing, sheets 1 and 2. We have details that don't have any sheets on them either. So how do we do this? The first thing we want to do is we want to add the model location. There are 3 tabs in the sheet set manager: the sheet list, the sheet views, and the model views. So what we're going to do, you can see there's no sheet views yet because we're going to bring them in. We're going to go over to the model view and we're going to add a location by double-clicking that, and it's going to come out, and we're going to go to the exercise 12 folder, add the location. What this does is it brings up the actual folder structure. It's very, very handy. You can go in, you can edit your XREFs, you can edit your blocks, you can edit your details. And when I pull these out, you can see how the views are there. These are the views we created before. Remember the north, the south, and the pond. And then if you went further, you have the elevation views. But the first thing I want to do is open up our view callout label block, because we want to make sure we have the right block. So I double click that to open it. Right click and go to block editor. It's just an attributed block that takes the view title callout number, the view number, and the viewport scale. So when you click this, you can see that it's connected to the sheet set under view title. Sheet set placeholder, view title, uppercase. It's the same with the view number. If I go out here and double click this, sheet set placeholder, view number, uppercase. I'm going to close this block, but if you were to create a new one or your company standard was a different style, you can use those fields. I'm not going to save my changes since I need that block. So how do we get this block? How do we make this part of our sheet set? Under the sheet list table tab, I'm going to right click my project again, and you're going to see under properties, what a lot of people don't fill out are these three sections. You're going to see a lot of people, this model view, we just set that. And now we do label view for blocks and call out blocks. We want the label view because we're going to add those views for those model space views. I'm going to select the ellipsis. I'm going to go to my exercise 12 folder. I'm going to go to blocks, view label block, and I'm going to choose that block. I can close out of my drawing here. I don't need to save this, and go back to my sheet set. So now the first thing we want to do is we want to add our north topography and our south topography to our C100. So we're on sheet C100. Remember model views? We don't have any sheet views yet because we haven't added any. So we're going to uncheck this, and we're going to just streamline it down to where we need to be. We're going to add the north topography. I can place it right in there, and I actually can hold down the right mouse button when I do this and change the scale, but I didn't do that. Let's enter the south topography, place on the sheet. And you see our block has placed these on the sheet, and let's go over to our sheet list and go to the second one, and we'll place the pond. Remember the 30 scale, so if I'm in here, you see how it's going to be at 30 scale. It actually did a perfect 30 scale, 1 to 30. So what I'm going to do is go over to my sheet views now, because now I have sheet views. And I'm going to rename and renumber. I can rename these to whatever I want. You see how we have the 4 dashes? I'm going to rename this to 1 and 2. 1, 2. And I'm going to rename this view to 1. I'm going to regen. That's 1. Under my sheet list over C100, we've got drawings, sheet view 1 and sheet view 2. And one thing you'll have to remember is when we put these in here, they come in on the layer that you put in. So I have a view border layer, which they came in on. Bale, construction fence, chain link, service box, all drawn 1 to 1, not to scale. So I'm going to go back to my drawing. Not 101, we're in 200 and 201, which is our detail sheets. And under our model views, again, we've got all these. So let's show you how to change that scale. So we're going to first do the bollard, place on sheet. I'm going to right click, and remember I said you could change the scale? The view was created incorrectly at 1 to 2, and that's what happens. It'll come in at that scale, but I can change it to 1 to 1, just like that. I'll do the same thing for the fire hydrant, place on the sheet. 1 to 1. We'll place it underneath here, and we'll do 2 more. We'll do the construction fence. Right click, 1 to 1, place on the sheet. And the reason I did that, left that scale in correctly, was to show you the difference on right clicking. And you can easily just move these over as you go in here. And we'll do 1 more for the straw bale profile. 1 to 1. And you can see all of my detail views are placed on my sheet the way I want them. Now let's go over the last few that we had were the architectural plans, which they were building front, side, left, and right. We'll need these for the next exercise, but do the same thing we did for the actual ones previously, the site plans and the details. So you have 3 different ones. You have civil site plans that are 1 inch equals 100 feet and 1 inch equals 30. You have details that are 1 to 1. Then we have architectural ones that are actually done in architectural scales. Place on the sheet. And you're going to see how the scale is a little bit different. So let's change that to a 1/2 inch equals a foot. Too big. We'll go to 3/32 equals a foot. we've got our front elevation just like that. And you see how it's front elevation? And then we'll go to the rear elevation, place on sheet, and we'll do the 3/32 again, equals a foot, place on sheet. So now we have our view labels in here, and how you can see this is under sheet views. All of the labels are under here, so when you rename and renumber, this view title number will change on those. We are now going to open up the sheet set located in the Exercise 13 folder. We're coming close to the completion of our project with our sheet list here. Our sheet views are populated over here. Our model views are located here as well. So now what we want to do is just open up one sheet. What we're going to do now is place additional call-out blocks to our actual sheet set. I'm going to double-click to get the center. And you're going to see when I mentioned before when I do properties, a lot of this, see there's nothing here for call-out blocks. Label blocks we already did, and we're going to add call-out blocks. Where are those? Let's go back to our model view, go under blocks, and I'm going to open up call-out block standard by double-clicking. And this is an actual template file that we created for our sheet sets. So we've got our block and our geometry, and then fields linking the two. This is our call-out, the base block. Then we have our call-out bubble, and then we have these call-out markers dynamic, and then we have sheet, actual match lines for left and right for sheets. So we're going to add these to our sheet set. So how do we do that? I'm going to right-click, Properties. I'm going to select call-out blocks here, select the window there, and select Add. I'm going to browse out to that same call-out block folder in the Exercise 13 under Blocks, Call-out Block Standard. Open that. Now, what I'm going to do is actually choose the blocks from the drawing. We already have the view label, but we can simply hold down our Control key and select the rest of these blocks. Now, these blocks will be available to us to add references to. Select OK, and you'll see it's been added there. OK, and our blocks are added to our current sheet set. The next thing we're going to need to do is go into our drawings and actually update those blocks. Take those blocks that we linked and sort of create placeholders linking back to the details and the views. But what I noticed right off the bat is our index isn't populated. Sometimes this could happen. So how do we do that again? Let's select that, and we're going to download from the source to get our sheet index table right back to where we want it. We have a profile and an installation, so we want to place a bubble. So what we're going to do is actually first create a layer called callouts, or something to the effect that would work. So I'm going to place a callout block, and what we're going to do, if these don't show up, you can set your category here. Sometimes I set it to none so they all show up, but we're going to do the detail callout bubble for number 5. I'm going to select that right there. I'm going to turn my object snap off so you can see it. And we're going to do a detail call-out bubble for number 6. The greatest thing about this is now that these straw bales are referenced to this detail, if this detail number changed, it will change on your detail sheet and change on your profile sheet. So we did that for those. Let's go out to our next drawing. Our architectural sheets, and we want to place a call-out for our bollards. We want to place like a section marker. We have our anchored bollard. I'm going to right-click, place a call-out marker, and you're going to see I'm pointing towards that, and it's 2 over C201. And let's do it over here on the left side. Place call-out block, call-out marker, select it there, and actually I'm going to select my block and just use the flip state. So those are 2 different ways of doing your section call-out markers too. Archive and e-transmitting a sheet set. Very, very similar functions. The archive is more intended to back it up, to back up the entire sheet set. The e-transmit is more for single file use to be emailed or translated that way. I use archive a lot on backing up. You notice when I right-click a sheet, I have e-transmit. There's no archive located in there. When I right-click the sheet set, there's an archive. The intent of the two is different, yet they're very similar. Under e-transmit, the intent is to send an individual file to a client. Say I want to e-transmit that file, I'm going to select e-transmit. And e-transmit does all the work for you. It takes that one file, C200, understands what files are associated with this file, if there's any backup files, if there's any XREFs, if there's anything attached to it, it will find it. You can also uncheck these to not be included within your set. One thing about e-transmit, which is very nice, is because a lot of times we transmittal, we have to have a transmittal setup. And you can see I have one called Release 14. Let's go to Modify. I set up an e-transmit so I know that the client needs this in Release 13 format for whatever it may be. You have all different options here. You can explode the AEC objects for civil drawings, or you can change them all the way back into AutoCAD 2000 format. A great way to have multiple setups for your standards for different types of clients. That's the e-transmit command. When you actually say OK and e-transmit it, AutoCAD's going to ask you what type of zip file you're going to do. I'll throw it in my archive folder and just call it Project 001 and hit OK, and it's just going to take those 9 files and create an e-transmittal of just that one drawing. Same concept as the archive. And you'll notice when that gets done, it creates a zip file. We can email it off to the client. So you have to go through your file tree in the same setup. And down here, instead of creating a transmittal setup, you modify your archive setup. So you can purge all the drawings upon archive, include fonts, data files, and prompt for a file name, and you can create a zip file or folders of all those files. Select I'm going to select OK on here, and what Archive's going to do is come up and say My Autodesk University Project. And select Save. And AutoCAD's going to go through all 18 files that are included in the 8 drawings with our project that we created at Autodesk University. Now what we want to do is make sure we can print these all in one click. The publish collate system variable I went through an earlier exercise, but just remember, if set to 0, you're going to get the sheets as they're displayed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order, which is great. If set to 1, it's going to come out and say, where do you want to place your sheet set? Let's go publish our design project. Now let's review the publish collate variable again, which right now it's set to 0, so I'm going to get 8 individual sheets. If I set it to 1, I'm going to get a project sheet. So what I'm going to do is right-click, publish, page setup override. If this is grayed out, that means that your template, for some reason, is not set. So you'll have to go back into your template by the Manage Page Setups and set it. I'm going to do an 11 by 17 PDF, and AutoCAD's going to sit back and think about it like it did before. If you have 50 sheets, this could take a little bit of time to process up front, but you'll be able to continue your work after this dialog box is open and closed. So that's why I like to leave it open. So it tells me that, okay, the process started working. Now I can actually go and start doing minor edits or whatever I need to do. When it finishes, we'll go out, we'll take a look at our PDF files, and then we're also going to look at the publishing through the actual publish dialog box and not using a page setup override. In the instances you use that is used when you have different sheet sizes or different pages you want to print. Our drawings have now been published. That did take a little bit of time, but I sped it up during the process so we weren't waiting for this to publish. So what I'm going to do is right-click and go out to my file location and actually look to see. So under PDF, you're going to see I've got each individual sheet, and I'll just open up one so we can look at it. And you'll see that they all printed individually, and we can look at all these individual sheets one at a time, and it printed perfectly the way I wanted to. So that's why we set up the page setup override. You'll notice I have a DSD file here. We're going to talk about the DSD file real quick here. So if you type publish at the command prompt, what the DSD file, that's a publishing file. So you can see it brings up all these drawings. I'm going to simply uncheck these or remove them, and then I can add the drawings I want to create for my DSD file in here. And as long as you have different page setups, you don't want the model. We'd erase that. We'd erase that. So I've got my sheets, some of them 11 by 17, some 22 by 34. And you'll see I'm going to do 22 by 34, but you have to have your page set up. So this is the same kind of a thing. Make sure you have the right layout as it's shown down here. Number of copies, 1, no plot stamp. And then we want to save this. So I'm going to go back out to my exercise 15 folder and save as that project 001 and then publish. And this would actually publish the same way it did before with the publish collate system variable. Now, what I mentioned is I could actually publish some of them to different formats like that and save it as a new one saying multiple formats. But just remember, save your sheet list file, publish the plotter in the name page setup, and the location. They're all important. A few last minute items I'd like to bring up on the Sheet Set Manager. The one thing we didn't talk about is the preview pane down below. And you can see how you can actually have it set up down here. It can show details or previews. I like the preview because when I go through my sets, I can actually see the preview below. Even though I'm not even in the drawing, I can see the actual drawing preview. So that's one thing you need to be aware of on the Sheet Set Manager. Another thing that's included with the data set are completed projects. If you go down to the bottom, my project is the first one completed using the template that we just used. My X project, and I'm going to go into one of these drawings because I want to show you, is a project that uses the title block as an external reference. I know a lot of people still do that, but the problem is with doing that, all of your line work is in the external reference, but your attribute data must be in the sheet. Either way, what I've experienced in the industry is that you're going to need an XREF for some form of title block data, whether it's subcontractors or other things that you carry, populate. Either way you do, it's fine, but you have to remember that your attribute data is in the sheet, and the line work is outside of the sheet. So that concludes our presentation of the Sheet Set Manager.